Imagine being in a cramped conference room at Apple in the early 2000s. Steve Jobs, fresh off a comeback, paces anxiously. In walks Bill Campbell, calm, steady, the trusted coach no one saw coming. Jobs isn't just any client. He's a titan wrestling with a team divided. Somehow Bill cuts through the noise, uniting legends like Jobs, Page, and Schmidt with a simple question: what's really holding you back? That scene is just the start. Bill Campbell wasn't your typical exec shouting from a corner office. His power came from something less flashy: relentless love and respect for people. But how does love change a trillion-dollar company? Let's unpack that tension. In 2003, Steve Jobs was known as an unforgiving visionary, but even he relied on Bill's steady counsel. At a tense Apple meeting, Bill didn't throw orders. He listened, asked questions, and reminded Jobs of his humanity. This deep trust wasn't born overnight. It grew from years of showing up, challenging with care, and standing beside him through battles. Bill saw coaching not as dictating plays, but like a baseball manager, nurturing talent with patience and grit. He believed leadership was about stepping into the batter's box repeatedly, failing, adjusting, and swinging again. This analogy wasn't fluff. Bill's coaching sessions often mirrored a slow but steady innings-long strategy, focusing on long-term growth, not instant wins. The payoff: companies led with heart and grit weren't just more humane. They were faster, safer bets in the chaotic Silicon Valley ecosystem. Bill proved that putting people first doesn't weaken profits, it turbocharges innovation. Under his mentorship, teams moved faster because they trusted each other deeply, turning raw potential into market value worth over $1 trillion. Fast-moving companies are like pressure cookers. Tension builds below the surface. Bill's genius was spotting those ticking time bombs early and turning them into fuel, not fire. Here's how he pulled it off. Larry Page and Eric Schmidt had a famously volatile dynamic. Page was the restless visionary, Schmidt the cautious operator. Instead of letting their disagreements fester, Bill sat them down in his simple office, acting as referee and translator. With his straightforward questions and relentless patience, he helped them surface the real issues and find common ground without ego getting in the way. Bill taught that tension is like steam building inside a pressure cooker. Left unchecked, it blows the lid off. But if you regulate it carefully, steam powers the engine. By addressing conflicts head-on through open conversations and mediation, leaders could harness that energy to propel the company forward instead of letting it erupt destructively. The result: teams that once bristled at conflict morphed into high-trust units that welcomed tough conversations. Leaders started spotting discomfort earlier and normalizing it, which accelerated decision-making and innovation. Bill's skill at tension management wasn't just damage control. It was a launchpad for breakthroughs. Bill didn't build cultures with fancy slogans or mandates. His secret weapon? Treating company culture exactly like a championship sports team. Let's unravel why that matters more than any buzzword. Bill was obsessed with coaching leaders the way he coached football quarterbacks. He believed great CEOs needed both the humility to listen and the guts to lead with authenticity. Just like a QB studies film, learns plays, and builds chemistry, Bill guided executives to hone their skills, build trust, and lead with clarity through messy challenges. Culture wasn't a mission statement for Bill. It was daily practice and accountability. He insisted on high standards paired with a no-blame mindset. Everyone's contributions mattered, and grit was a badge of honor. Bill often reminded teams that culture is what you do when no one's watching, reinforcing habits through rituals, honest feedback, and shared victories. Why all this effort? Because Bill saw culture as the difference between a workplace and a team you'd actually want to sweat with. That joy, that hustle, that collective fire, turns out it's what drives spectacular results. Companies coached by Bill created environments where people felt alive, connected, and unstoppable. Remember that cramped room at Apple? Bill's calm questions sparked breakthroughs that seemed impossible. His lessons on people, tension, and culture aren't just business staples, they're lifelines. Next time you're stuck in a tough team moment, try asking not who's right, but how can we win together? That one shift might just turn your company into a powerhouse. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.